They were like, okay, it's gonna be freestyle the first 30 seconds, and then when I point to you, you're gonna do the Teletubby. And I'm like talking to the girl next to me.
What is the Teletubby?
And I'm like, wait, what's the Teletubby? He was like, you know. And I'm like,
that's the Teletubby?
Wait, what? And then I turned to the girl next to, but he did. That's what he did. So I'm like, what? I turned to the girl next to me. I was like, wait, is he serious? And she's like, girl, I don't know.
Hey y'all, I'm Jacquelyn Doggette. Welcome to Actor Chat, where we sit down with actors and people in actor-adjacent careers to find out what life in the entertainment industry is really like. Today we're sitting down with a talented actor, Crystal Coreen. Is that your stage name?
It is.
All right, so Crystal Coreen. I've known Crystal for a few years in Los Angeles. And something that I know about Crystal is what I'm going to start out the gate asking you about. You went to school to be an actor.
I did.
Okay, so I actually don't know a lot of people in Hollywood who went to school to be an actor. But I can see how it could be beneficial. Do you feel like that gives you an edge? Is that more beneficial that you actually went through undergrad training to be an actor?
I think it's beneficial because it teaches you a certain work ethic.
Okay.
I think with any school, like, it is what you make of it. Mm-hmm. And I was the type of student where I tried to cram in as many credits as I could, and take from as many different people as I could, and take electives when they were available to just get as much information as possible. And I feel like that spilled over into LA in a sense where I have the mindset that you need to always continue to learn. You need to always be in class. You need to always be doing something with your craft all the time. And coming from theater, you can make it to like the highest level and still not make that much money. So when you do theater, like, you have to really want it. So having friends who are still active in theater, I think it reminds me, oh dang, you really have to want it bad and work hard, even if the payoff isn't financial.
Do you feel like that experience prepared you for the industry side of things? Because training as an actor, for instance, if I go to an acting class, I'm learning the craft. Right. It doesn't teach me how to manage my life as a business per se.
Right.
Did school prepare you for any of that?
In some ways, yes. For the most part, no. I'll say yes. I'll give them credit because we did have a class, like, I think it was called Professional It's been a minute. Yeah. But I think it was called Professional Survival for the Actor. Okay. So we did have, like, someone come in and talk about taxes and, like, different audition prep and, like, so we, like, we did have people come in and talk to us about the, like, surviving as an actor, but having someone talk to you about it and listening to someone in class is totally different than living it and going from, like, survival job to survival job. So, like, they prepared us in a sense by trying to teach us a little bit about the survival part of the industry, and, like,
told you it was coming.
Yeah, like, we had teachers who had a certain amount of success and, like, done tours, but they also told us about, like, the different survival jobs we had. Like, I remember when I went to New York, one of my teachers was like, oh yeah, I used to work right at that Olive Garden in Times Square, like, so you hear it, but now I know what it's like to work at those restaurants, you know what I mean? So like, working it and doing it is totally different than, like, sitting in a classroom.
How do you balance it time-wise? Because to make the amount of money that you need for Los Angeles rent and cost of living, and to still, like you said, you try to stay in classes and continue to train, and, like, you have auditions and you have gigs, and it's a whole thing. How do you keep that all straight and organized?
I feel like when you're an artist, it's like it's a never-ending balancing act that nobody ever masters. Okay. Like, you're constantly trying to balance everything, but you never fully get the hang of it.
Okay.
Like, I do promo work, like brand ambassador, promo modeling, so I work different events around the city. So my schedule always varies, And there are some days where, like, I come home from, like, I've literally worked from, like, 7 a.m. to midnight. Like, going between shifts. And I come home and I'm like, girl, you can't keep doing this to yourself. But at the same time, I have to, because rent has to be paid. Yes. And then I have different things I want to invest in career-wise, whether it be, like, classes or, like, content. Yeah. So, yeah, you just do what you can. When you have a day off, you try to maybe schedule in a nap. But to be honest, usually when you have that day off, right? Like, and schedule a nap. But to be honest, like, usually when you have that day off, it's like, okay, but I could be using this to work on something.
Like a guilt motivation, or like a...
I think it's, I always want to make sure I'm holding myself accountable. And also, like, since LA, like, it takes a lot of guts, like, you know, to, like, move to LA and put everything on the line for your career and your, like, your craft. So if I'm here, I want to make sure I'm really spending my time wisely. Yeah. Like, I moved away from, like, my family. It's an expensive ass city. Like, so when I'm not paying bills, what did you come here for? You know, you came here for your craft. So I just kind of want to make sure I'm always, you know, working toward that.
On it.
Yeah.
Now, I know that you are very health focused, health conscious.
I am, yeah.
Do you think
Jacquelyn doesn't like any of my snacks?
She eats dried kale.
Kale chips. I really want to keep a healthy lifestyle for, like, just preventative measures. Yeah. And also, like, it sounds cheesy, but you really do feel better when you
It's
eat.
not cheesy. Yeah. It's not. And I would imagine that that's part of the reason you're able to run on, you're not running on fumes, because you're, like, fueling yourself in a healthy way. Mm-hmm. Do you have any tips for people who might want to be healthier and aren't that into kale?
I would say moderation. Well, I would say moderation, like, because my diet has definitely gotten more and more strict over the years. Like, if I looked at it, like, 5 or 6 years ago, like, I was still healthy, but it's definitely more strict, like, now. Okay. So I would say, like, just pick, like, 2 or 3 days out of the week where you're like, okay, I'm only going to eat vegetables and only, like, complex carbs.
Complex carbs, yes.
So, like, quinoa. Be like, okay, half my plate is, like, veggies, and then, like, a fourth is, like, a complex carb, and then, like, maybe a little bit of protein for the other fourth. So, like, yeah. But, like, pick, like, doable. Do, like, just moderation. That, I feel like that's more sustainable, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can do that. Yeah. Not me, the friend.
the friend
that we're talking about. I'm going to jump in a seamless segue.
Okay.
You mentioned moving to LA. Now, yes. I know you were in Chicago before. Mm-hmm. So, moving from Chicago to LA, very different towns, one theater focused, one on camera focused. What was the motivation to move you from Chicago? Especially because you come from a theater background, right?
Yeah. Where to start? So what? Like, I really love Chicago, and it was more theater focused. Okay. I always preferred TV film, though. It just, I didn't have, like, the opportunity.
Like watching it?
Actually doing it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I always, like, preferred TV film acting. Not to say I don't love theater. Like, I love theater. Yeah. But and in Chicago, they were starting to have some shows shoot there, but it just wasn't on the level of LA. Yeah. And, like, it was, like, around my junior year in college, I was thinking, like, you know, I think I really want to eventually move to LA. The dilemma was, I love Chicago so much
as a city
that it's hard to leave. And the theater community, it is really special because we're all, like, one big dysfunctional family. Yeah. But it's really beautiful. Like, we all support each other, you know? And it got to the point where I had been out of college for, like, 2 years, a little over 2 years, maybe 2.5 years. Okay. And I'm like, if I don't move and leave within the next year or so, I'm going to be here forever. I was talking about it to an artistic director at a theater company out there, and she's like, well, you know, Crystal, if you don't like it, you could always eventually come back.
That is
like, Chicago will always be there.
Good point.
And when she said that, it just like, I'm just like, like it. That sounds very like it's common sense. Like the city will always be there. But when she said that, it hit me like, oh, you can go and try it. You can go and try. Yes. So it just shout out to Lillian Brown. She probably doesn't realize that it had that much of a like impact, but like just her saying that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I could come back. So that kind of like was the catalyst a little bit. Yeah. Well, I was already planning on moving, but that made me more certain in my move.
Right. I do think it takes a certain level of bravery to kind of step out on faith in a career that this is a confusing career because it asks you to be emotionally open.
Yeah.
And
you have to be so vulnerable.
Also, have your guard up. Because you have to be ready for all the rejection.
All the rejection.
So you have to, like
all the rejection. Every day you get rejected.
Yes.
No, we ain't want you. We ain't want you. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like you have to deal with the rejection while somehow also staying emotionally open, but also being emotionally tough enough. Not that being emotionally open isn't tough. That's its whole other thing. But you have to be vulnerable and invulnerable
too.
How have you balanced that?
Some days are better than others. Like with auditions, you want to let them go when you walk out the door, and sometimes I can, but every now and then those auditions come up and you're like you just wanted it so bad. And it's just like, it could be a role that you just feel like it sticks with you. You had so much fun preparing for it. You did so much work.
Yeah.
And so like you try to leave it at the door, but sometimes there are just those auditions where you're like, I got so attached to this character.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
so those are, it's hard to let go because you're prepping for it like, you're going to go on set. That's how you have to prep for it.
Yes.
You're prepping for it like, okay, they're going to call me and I'm going to be at work next week. I try to just channel it all into creating my own material when that does happen, or try to like write about it, or like sing something to, or like I'll just run something to like physically like get it out.
For me too, for me the balance has been what I can control and what I can't control. Because you know me, I'm a planner. That's a control tendency. Yeah. It's like I have this idea, I think it's great, and I want it to happen.
Yeah.
But this industry is interesting in that I put my all into things I cannot control. Yeah. Like you said, putting all this work and effort and attachment into these characters and just getting really like prepping for it like I'm going to be on set. I love that. That's what we're doing for auditions. And so I can control the preparation. I can control like the playlist I'm playing before I go in. I can control what I do in the room. And then somehow I have to find a way to let go.
Right. Because you can't control what happens after.
I can't control what happens after.
No control.
So similarly, I find my own control in other things. I plan, I journal, I write as well. And I do kind of put focus on, not more focus, but in the moments where I can't do anything, like I've already prepared, I've already auditioned, I've already done everything I can do in that realm. I've done all my submissions, I've updated my materials, like I've done all those things. I just focus on projects that I can control.
Right. Like this.
Like Actor Chat. But, and part of it too is like collaborating with people with similar goals and ideas and desires. That has been
finding a community definitely helps. You need people like that who they've been there.
Understand it.
They understand it. Whereas like, I love my family, but they haven't walked in my shoes in terms of, this career and all the rejection and everything, So,
And the rejection is different than what I prepared myself for.
Right.
I can take a no. If someone is standing in front of me and is like, no, I don't want you, you're not right for it, which doesn't happen.
Right.
But if that happened, I could probably handle that.
Right.
But this rejection is just silence.
Yeah, you don't know. You don't know what it was.
Yes.
Like, why didn't you want me? It's just because you wanted a totally other, like, look. Like,
no answers.
Nothing.
No information.
That's the hardest part.
It's the silence.
That's
like,
the hardest
I
part.
didn't realize that was the rejection people were talking about. And I'm like,
That's tough.
That goes deep.
It's just the unknown.
Everyone's just in their own lane, feeling like doing what they're supposed to do, like they're part of the industry.
Right.
It's almost like assembly line, like we're all just focused on the one thing in
Exactly.
front of us. And so it's nothing
They
personal.
don't have time to worry about the people who didn't get it.
In no way is it personal.
Yeah.
But like, I'm a person.
Right.
So it's here like
personal. Yeah.
Like, how'd I do?
Right.
That's where, yes, like having that self-assurance is so helpful. Having like your routines and like the things that make you happy or the things that you can express yourself through is so important. And that community of people who
that's
get
key.
it.
Yeah. I think that's really important. Especially in a city like LA, because there's so many people trying to do this. So you really need your community of people who you know that when you're having a bad day, when you just need any type of like encouragement, that they're going to be there to like help you and lift you up. You need that.
What advice would you give to someone who doesn't have a community yet? Like, how do you find that community?
I would definitely say get into a class. Get into a class because I feel like you could get the best of both worlds. You can learn your craft, but you also get a community because you're sharing that experience with people who are also trying to, soak in all that information. And audit the studios to see which studio is the best fit. Like when I audited Anthony's studio, shout out Anthony Gilardi Acting Studio. When I, #HippoLife, when I audited that studio though, it was a certain vibe with the people and a certain vibe with Coach that made me want to be there. Yeah. And other people might come and they might not be feeling it, but they could go to another studio and feel at home. So I feel like it's just important to audit, see where you feel like you fit in and find your tribe. And I think class is the best way to do that because, again, you'll be improving in your craft, but you'll still be going through a shared experience with other people in the class. So I think that's really important. And then from there, it sparks, creating your own content and meeting people who want to, like, shoot stuff, So I think that's key. It's productive professionally and personally.
That's all, like, it's all a part of the mental health and the emotional health.
Yes.
Is you take care of your body. You have a community of people to relate to. You dance your stress out. Like, they're
all connected. It's all connected.
Well, being an actor, I feel like you have to be self-aware in order to
be
a good actor. And part of that is taking care of yourself.
That's so true. Yeah.
This is my instrument. This is all I have to work with.
If your like body and your mind is messed up, how are you going to put yourself into another character? You can't. If you don't know yourself, you can't act. That's actually something that's hard to explain to people who don't act because they're like, you just like play pretend. I'm like, no.
There's a lot that goes into it.
And being a human being,
It sounds like that comes naturally.
Yeah, but it's difficult.
But to be another human being, it takes hard work.
It does.
Yeah, because every human being is made up of a million situations and a million experiences and a million nuances. And just, it takes work to put that together.
Right. And you have to find all that in your character.
Yes. Because it's not fully on the right. Like, the writer gives you a framework and you have to fill it.
It's an experience.
Yeah. What has been the best part of this experience?
That's a really hard question. Dang, Jack.
Well,
I would say when I did, like, my most recent piece, I don't know if this is, like, the one, but it's just the one that's coming to my mind because I guess it was so recent. I did feel, like, really proud and like blessed to be an artist in that moment when like after like all the stress of getting it together, but when I actually saw it,
your concept video.
Yeah. So when like I actually like looked at it on my like TV for the first time, I really I was proud, but I also felt blessed because not everyone can express themselves in the way that we can express ourselves. Mm-hmm. Like, we can take what we're feeling, write it down, make a visual, and not everyone can do that. They can be feeling something, but all they have is social media to go post or tell it to a friend. Mm-hmm. They can't, create something out of it. So when I first saw that, I think that's when I thought, like, wow, artists are really special. Like, we're blessed that we can channel our emotions and our thoughts into our art. Yeah. And not everyone can do that.
That's
So
beautiful.
Yeah.
And I love that it was a piece that you created.
Yeah.
That you had that moment with something that you created.
Yeah.
Artist, like, that label isn't on us just like, oh, just you're a group of creative people. It's like, no, I think at the core of it, we're creators. Mm-hmm. And we want to make something.
And I feel like we all have this bond, even if we might not know each other, because no one else is going to understand why we're going around from survival job to survival job, auditioning, getting rejected,
volunteering for it.
Right.
No one's making us
we signed up for this. No one's going to understand why we are putting ourselves through this struggle but a fellow artist who has experienced the reward and the gift that you get after you create something, or you've just got done being able to be a character that you really love. Like, no one's going to really understand that but another artist. And I feel like that's a shared bond that all artists have. Yeah, it's really special.
Does it make it worth it?
It does. There are some days where I'll be like, Lord, why did I choose this life?
One big victory. It's all these little victories.
And then I have to go back and remind myself, like, where I started, where I came from, and point these growth spurts out to myself, you know. So, but I have to have those moments where, like, I force myself to give myself credit in order to keep going. You know what I mean?
Like the whole thing of, like, it was brave to move out here.
Right, and exactly.
For you, it's just like, this is just something I'm gonna do, but in the grand scheme of things, like, that's a huge deal.
Exactly. And I have to remind myself of that, and then look at myself like, okay, when you came out here, what were you doing? I wasn't creating content when I came out here. That was, like, always one of my goals, and, like, now you know what I mean? Yeah. So, like, you kind of have to, like, give yourself, like, that credit, you know? Not, like, brag about yourself,
but
you know, like,
celebrate the
wins.
Have to
celebrate your wins, So I'm getting better at that too. That's a process for sure.
Well, I'm glad because I am proud of you.
Thank you.
I am glad that you were proud of yourself.
Thank you. Oh, you know what drives me crazy? Sorry, I know we're supposed to be wrapped up, but what drives me crazy is when someone tells me they act, but they don't watch TV. They're like, oh, I don't watch TV. I just feel like it poisons the mind.
I understand if you're coming from the direction of, like, limiting television.
Right, for sure.
But if you don't appreciate the final product, why are you doing it? I appreciate it. I think there's value. Like, obviously, you can go either way. You can overconsume and
for sure.
do nothing.
You might want to put a time limit on how much TV you watch a day.
And do nothing but watch TV.
For
sure.
But
I also think that there's so much ability to change and affect change and even just help people separate from their daily life. Like,
for sure.
The entertainment value, arts can affect people on a visceral level.
They can.
That just talking to them doesn't necessarily do. Mm-hmm. And I find value in that, especially when, like, we have control over the content we watch.
Exactly. You could choose what show you want to.
I could choose something that uplifts me. I could choose something that entertains me. I can choose something that adds value to my life in some way. Like, some of my role models are television characters.
Yeah.
Because I'm like,
you can learn something from them. Yeah.
I'm like, I see aspects in this fictional character that I would love to reflect in my own life, like empathy and leadership ability. And like, I think it can be inspiration.
It can. I concur.
So yes. I want to do things that inspire me, inspire other people, and or entertain me or other people.
Yeah.
Preferably both.
Both, yeah. Of course.
Hopefully I'm not the only one like, this is great.
Yeah, and I think that's, like, well, I would hope that that's most artists' goal to, you know, inspire people and motivate and hopefully add some entertainment in the process. Yeah.
And now, in conclusion, where can people find you? Is there anything like on the webs, on social media? Is there anything you're working on you want people to know about?
Where should I start? So, I recently started vlogging. Just because LA, a lot of people think it's super glamorous or they think it's like all struggle. So I feel like my vlog shows like, yeah, I was on set, but I also worked 14 hours the day before. I recently released a visual for a spoken word I did called Love Story. Follow me, Crystal_Coreen on Instagram. And yeah. And yeah, look me up on Facebook, YouTube for the vlogs and everything, and yeah, follow my
Crystal Coreen on YouTube as well.
Yeah, it's Crystal Coreen. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for being a part of Actor Chat.
Thank you for having me.
Check out Crystal on all of her platforms.
I was nervous. I'm like, I don't know what she gonna ask.
I didn't give a whole lot of detail.
She was like, I'm just talking to actors.
I want to chat.
Okay.
With actors. But yeah, thank you for real. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And check out Crystal on her platforms. You will not be disappointed. Bye.